In 2016, artist Pauline Garavan created a work of art to mark the centenary of the Endurance Expedition. This work hangs at the entrance to the Shackleton Museum. I think you'll find the next section quite interesting as the artist describes what goes on in creating a work of art.
Hi, my name is Pauline Garavan. I'm a visual artist and I'm going to talk to you about a work I did in 2016 called Shackleton's Endurance. It's a work I did to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Shackleton's men being rescued off Elephant Island in the Antarctic. And this work was then shown as part of the official centenary celebrations in Athy, County Kildare. But I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I live in Westport, County Mayo, on the west coast of Ireland, and I am primarily an oil painter. Over the years, I've done some sculptural work as well, small sculptural work. And my Shackleton piece is sort of a hybrid. There's a bit of sculpture, and I'm also using oil paint in it. For me, detail is really important in my work. And I think when I describe my Shackleton piece to you later, you'll understand what I mean by that. I have worked on different projects over the years, and when I work on them, I would usually follow a particular theme for a number of years. So I've worked on things like rustic galvanized roofs, the sea, grass, a collection of foam bottles. The project I'm working on at the moment is led by the issue of climate change. And I'm drawing attention to this issue by focusing on what is still good and healthy in the world. And I guess what it is we're at risk of losing, and therefore what it is that we need to protect. My work has been shown in solo shows and in group shows that have been selected and curated. And I've shown my work in places like the Royal Hibernian Academy, the Royal Ulster Academy, in art centres and public and private galleries around Ireland and in the United States also. And my work can be found in collections in public and private collections in Ireland and the United States. So why did I make a work on Shackleton? Well, my interest in Shackleton goes back to about 2001 or 2002, when I went to the library and by accident or by chance picked up a book on Shackleton's expeditions to Antarctica. He was on a number of them. And I was totally taken by it. I was really fascinated. And after that, I read a number of books and accounts. And I also read his book that he wrote after returning from the Endurance Expedition. And this book is peppered with extracts from the diary he kept on that expedition. It's this book here, South, an amazing book, fabulous. And this book I used as a source for my Shackleton work, and I can tell you about that in a minute. So fast forward to 2015, and the Arts Office in Kildare County Council, they put out a call for a commission for a public sculpture, a larger-than-life sculpture of Shackleton to commemorate the following year, the centenary anniversary. And when I read this call, I just immediately knew that I wanted to make something for this event. Now, obviously, because I don't do that sort of work, I couldn't apply for this commission, but I was really certain that I just needed to make something. I had had this interest in this topic for a good many years, and so I was going to put it to some use. I wasn't sure what that was, but there began the sort of creative process to think about what it was that I wanted to do or how I wanted to celebrate this anniversary in my work. One of the first things I suppose that I was pretty sure about was that I wanted to base my work on the photograph that Frank Hurley took in 1915. Frank Hurley was the official photographer on the Endurance Expedition, and he took a really amazing photograph for its time. It was a nighttime photograph of the Endurance ship stuck in the ice and resting at something of a tilt. I have an image here and I'm going to show it to you so as you can appreciate what I'm talking about. It's truly an amazing photograph for the technology that was. It is there silhouetted, a silver ghost of an image against the black sky. So this was the image that I felt that I was going to base my work on. And ultimately, I decided on doing a work that was 5 by 3 feet. So that's about 145 centimeters by 96. And it was going to be in aluminium. I'd worked with aluminium before, and it's a lovely metal, it's a silver color, and that was going to help me in creating this silvery image of the ship. And rather than it being one large piece of aluminium, I decided that I would have it in panels. I would break up this image into separate pieces. And so instead of it being one large piece, it was 36 panels that I was going to attach together. And across these 36 panels, create the image of Frank Hurley's photograph. And rather than just painting it or drawing it, I was going to create this image by writing the words from Shackleton's diary that he kept on the Endurance expedition. So in his book South, that I had read a number of times, the diary extracts that are throughout this book, I decided that I was going to use these words to create the image. So I read the book again, and every time I came on a quote, I noted down the page number and the paragraph, like the second, third, fourth paragraph down. And I went right through the book to the end. And then I got out my computer, and it was very easy to go back through the book from the beginning and finding all those quotes and typing them up. And there were a lot. I then printed them out, and there are 10 full pages of type. And because the computer calculates how many words, I know that there are over 6,300 words. But this was giving me a lot of good material by which I could create my artwork. So I had decided on the work I was going to do and more or less how I was going to do it. But then I needed a home for this work. I needed somewhere to show it. I needed to be part of this event the following year. And I contacted the Arts Office in Kildare. And I told them the idea I had for this artwork. And they were interested, but they weren't able to really facilitate me at that point. And they told me that if I was prepared to go ahead and do it, that I would really have to find a venue myself. I remember also contacting the museum, the Shackleton Museum, and they were very interested in it. But again, they weren't able to facilitate me and show this work during the celebrations. So then ultimately I contacted the library in Athy, and they were very interested and were also prepared to show my work during the centenary celebrations. They have a room in the library. It's called the Minahan Gallery, and it houses, it's a permanent exhibition of John Minahan's photographs. He's a photographer who lived in Athy. And they said that they would clear out that room for me and give me that gallery to myself to show my Shackleton work during the event. So this was fantastic. I had my venue, I had my idea, and I knew what it was that I was going to do. And so now it was a matter of getting down and doing the work. So another thing that I had to sort of figure out was how I was going to write the words. I tried different ways of going about it. I tried a small paintbrush, but I wasn't really able to get that sense of handwriting with it. I remember making a nib a sort of like a pen nib from soft wood that I carved, and that just wouldn't hold the pen, so it wasn't really useful. I ultimately decided that perhaps felt tip pens, where the felt tip was dried. So I took out the ink insert and dried the nibs and used them. I dipped them into the oil paint and then started writing on a practice sheet of aluminium. And it was pretty good, but it still wasn't just right. So the first ones I tried were the most expensive markers that I could find, because I thought good quality is what I need here. So when they weren't quite just getting the effect that I needed, I tried different ones and I tried different ones again. And I eventually bought a set of very cheap children's markers, and they were just perfect for the job. They were just very simple. So here, just this sort of thing. And I cut it in half. I removed the ink filler inside and then stuck it back together so as I had something to hold on to, a solid pen to hold on to. Dried the nib of any ink. And then there I had like a pen to write with. And it sort of felt like Shackleton back in the day using an ink pen. I was dipping it into the oil paint, and then I was going to be writing the words that he wrote during the endurance expedition. I think it's probably best that I show you an image of my work now, so as you know, get a sense of what it is that I'm now going to be talking about. This is it here. So there is a strip of aluminium. I think if I can just zoom in a little bit, I'll try and do this as smoothly as possible so as it's not too distracting. So that's a strip of aluminium at the top, and everything, all the panels down below hang from this one strip of aluminium at the top. It's held by these steel loops, which in turn are attached to the wall. So I just zoom out again. So you have the 6 panels across and 6 panels down, and they're all attached by wire attachments that I handmade myself. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a few minutes. So that's my image. I'll just come out of that again. And I think maybe I will show you actually the attachments that I made. These are made of wire, and wire, when it's sanded, is a lovely silvery color. These little guys here that look like a curtain hook, they're the ones that attach the panels between top and bottom. I had to make 60 of those. These ones here are the ones that attach them sort of horizontally, and I had to make 60 of those. And these here are the ones that were attached to the strip of aluminium. If you can see, I'll just come out of that. It's a strip of aluminium like this that I used, just a narrow piece, and then had to sand it up really nicely, taking that very rough, sharp corners of it. So I just have 3 of the little attachments here. They're very small, very finicky to make. That's the size of the little curtain hook one that attached the panels from top to bottom. This is the one that held them together side by side like that. And this is the little one that slid onto the length of aluminium strip, both top and bottom. And then the little hook at the bottom, that's where the first panel would hang. So if you can imagine, there is the strip of aluminium at the top, and everything hangs from it and from each other there below. But it had to be very precise, because if one of those little hooks were out by a millimetre, say at the top, it was carried right through down to the bottom. And if it was out a millimetre here and a millimetre somewhere else, it would lose its sort of square shape by the end. So when making them, I had markings on a small little pliers that I was using, with just little bits of masking tape, that I would know where to make the turns, the different turns, so as they were all uniform. And then my job was to start painting the words. So I took all of the words, all of Shackleton's, the text from his diary. Some of the inserts are just a sentence or two. Some of them are a number of paragraphs long. So I started with the first corner, the top left corner of the top left panel, which is just night sky. And I just started writing from his text with the ink pen, writing across, because it was the night sky. There was no gap between words and no gap between rows of words. And I went across and I knew, wow, this is going to be a lot of work. This is really going to be time consuming. But I suppose the really hard work came when I got to the image, the ship and the ice. So my way of doing this was, I laid out all the 36 panels on a large work table that I had, and I sketched out the image. Now the sketch, it wasn't highly detailed, but it was pretty accurate, because this was going to be my guide for my work. And then I got the photograph. I made a large photocopy of it, and I have an image of that I will show you. And it is here. It is really 4 A4 sheets stuck together. And then I divided it up into the 36 panels that I was going to be working on. And so then in turn, I'll just get out of that for a moment and show you a close-up of one of those squares. So I then in turn divided that into 64 portions, 8 across and 8 down. And what I was going to do then, or what I did, was I took all the information that was held in that little portion and transport it or write it or transcribe it onto the same portion or relative portion on the aluminium panel. So each panel was, I think, 24 by 16 centimeters. Whereas each of these little sections here, they're about 9 millimeters by 12 or 13. So this is densely packed with information. And I was then putting it into a somewhat bigger area on the aluminium panels. But by being fully accurate, getting all this information onto my aluminium panel, I was able to recreate the image. But rather than drawing it, I will just come out of that. Rather than drawing it or painting it, I was doing it by just writing Shackleton's own words, his account of his experience on the endurance expedition. I think I have one more image that I want to show you. There are a couple of just close-ups of my work, and I think it's just worth showing you because it helps to illustrate what I'm talking about. None of this is painted. Everything you see is either the silver of the aluminium or else it's the words that I have written. I'll show you another one that's even more close up. And there you can see better. It's just words. Now, you can't really read any of them. And these darker areas are where I have more ink on my pen, or more paint rather, on my pen, and closely packed together. Here are areas where the words are very spaced and lightly inscribed. And I think I have one more image here that I will show you. Yes, this one here. Again, it's just all words. And there you can see a close-up of one of the little pins or attachments that I showed you earlier. So I finished that work. It took me months and months to do, great effort and great concentration. I remember at one point, in fact, 2 times that I remember at least, where I sort of made an error. I can remember one of the ropes that were hanging from one of the top poles. I thought I was doing it accurately by measurements, but when I had it finished, by my eye, it just didn't look like a rope that was hanging down. And our eye is a very good judge. We sort of know if it doesn't look right. So I had to sand it back to the aluminium and then sort of start that whole portion again. So I had to do that maybe twice that I certainly remember. But I eventually finished that work with about 2 weeks to spare. Long before I was finished it, the arts office who were organising the whole centenary event, they were including me as they were including my work as part of the official programme of events. And this was absolutely fantastic for me. So 2 weeks to spare, I was finished, and I went on to Athy the day before the events and I installed it. And the event was just such a fantastic thing to be part of. I was really I felt privileged to be part of it. I met some of Shackleton's relations. I met his granddaughter, Alexandra Shackleton, and his cousin, Jonathan Shackleton. And that was just so lovely. It sort of made Shackleton more a real person than a character. After the event, I removed the work. I showed it in a couple of different venues in other areas in Ireland. And afterwards, the Shackleton Museum and Heritage Centre acquired the work. And it is there now permanently on show in the museum. And I'm just so happy and so proud to have it there. Some of you listening to me will possibly have seen the work. Some of you will have been to the museum. But for those of you who haven't, the museum is such a fantastic place to visit, a wonderful resource with fabulous artifacts. And if you visit, you would also be able to see my Shackleton's Endurance again. If this was a live talk that I was given to you, there would be an opportunity at the end to ask me questions. So I'm conscious that you may wish to ask me something. And what I'm inviting you to do is that you could be in touch with the museum and they would forward your questions to me. And I'd be happy to get back to you and answer any queries that you might have. So I think that's all that I have to say, except to just say thank you for listening to me, and I suppose goodbye for now. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, thanks very much for that, Pauline. I think that was an intriguing presentation. Just to let you know, we're experiencing various technical problems here, but Amanda, Sheena and Bethany are jumping around, plugging wires in and keeping it afloat. I don't think anybody else out there is. Anybody who comes to the Autumn School in Athy would normally know that I'm the one who's running around plugging in wires, so it's great that somebody else is doing the hard work. We're over live to Oslo at 12:40 for a presentation from Geir from the Fram Museum. If as you move from, as each session starts, you may have to refresh your Facebook page to get into it. You can do that by re-clicking the link that's on the homepage of the Shackleton Museum website, or refresh your Facebook page. And now we have some community contributions to bring us up to a break, and then our next session at 12:40. See you then.
Hello, my name is Ana Moreto. I'm turning from Brazil, and I'm looking forward to attending this incredible event.
Hi everybody, Don and Val here from Cornwall. Hope you and your families are all keeping well. Yeah, it's a great shame that we can't all come out and meet in a tie this year, but next year it'll be bigger and better. So let's all look forward to that. And just a big thank you to everybody involved in getting this together. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thanks again. All the best.
Bye.
Wish you well.